In today's episode, I have Jeff, Herr on, and we both started out as franchisees 20-ish years ago in franchising. And so we went back in time to think about what would we have done differently, knowing what we know today, what would we have done differently in the brands that we owned? And then if we could have chosen a different brand, what would we have chosen and why? And it has a lot to do with private equity. So I think you'll enjoy this episode with Jeff, Herr.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
Let's shift gears let's rewind like 20-ish years ago. We both got started as a franchisee.
I was a lot more handsome back then.
That was a long time ago. Did you even know what you were getting into when you were buying a franchise? No. Did you even know what you're getting into? Because I didn't have a clue. I saw somebody that I thought, man, they've been there, done that. I'm buying into this system, and it is fully built out. It's just plug and play. Here we go. I validated what I thought was a lot. Looking back, it was very little. And I jumped in, full on jumped in. Thank God there was other franchisees. The best thing for me when I first bought Liberty Tax was there was other franchisees in that system that were, doing well, and we really helped each other. And the founder had built, he'd been there, done that before, and he built something good. But, several years in, still, they were always evolving, which is good looking back. But, I thought some of the stuff was already done. Example, like we had this whole thing called closing the sale. Like when you're sitting in front of a customer, how do you close that sale? A friend of mine actually did a really good job as a franchisee and spent the summer at the corporate office building this thing out to roll out nationwide to all the franchisees. So we had a clear way to close a customer in front of us. I would have thought that would have been done early on, and it really wasn't. So looking back, Jeff, I didn't have a clue what I was buying. I'm glad I bought it, but it was a hard business. Like there were easier franchises to buy that I could have done probably much better in, but I probably wouldn't have what I have today in terms of knowledge and grit and just experience if I had gotten into one of the easier franchises to make money in. But what about you? As you think back to your first brand, was it just super easy? We were fierce competitors back then. Remember you coming to my market. We were competitors.
I know. It was really not easy. And
you don't even know where to start. I've never heard you speechless before. You're almost speechless. You don't even know where to start.
Like there's a little PTSD, kind of like going back in time and going through that process. Like,
what would you have done differently? What would you have done differently?
I think I probably would have invested more in kind of building out my team. Like I had pie in the sky aspirations. Like I try to think big. I mean, that's in my life, one of the things that I am kind of proud of is that, there's been a lot of times where I've kind of tried to shoot for the stars, and I mean, I've come up flat on lots of occasions, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. Right. So going back 20 years, when I think about the good old days, I wanted to shoot for the stars. Right. And I think that if I could go back in the old time capsule and do it over again, I would have kind of built out more of a team. I would have invested more in my own like infrastructure. I would have spent more time before launch on a strategic plan. I would have absolutely categorically set up, in addition to just my team, I would have set up relationships with various advisors above and beyond just my own team. An advisor around finance, an advisor around operations, an advisor around marketing, so that I could phone a friend, so I could be nimble and move quicker versus running into an obstacle and then trying to figure it out on my own. So and I'm not talking about building some huge internal team, but I definitely would have had a stronger or, a better foundation of human capital, and then had outside sources of sharpshooters for advisory. Like that would have been a better way for me to kind of set it up. Because I was hair on fire, man. I mean, we hit the ground running and we had some success, but we had to figure a lot of stuff out on our own. We tried stuff that didn't work. We tried stuff that failed. We tried stuff that won. But I think we could have been a lot more efficient if we had kind of had a strategic plan, had a little bit more of a nucleus of infrastructure internally, and then kind of set up advisors. I think we've talked about like a board of advisory versus a board of directors on previous calls, but I think that's just so critical. Like if you have a decision of to have advisors or not have advisors, of people that have done it before and won, who would say, I don't want that? Who would say that? Nope, I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't care about it. Everybody would say, I want that. Like that makes sense, right? Which is a big foundation of Front Street. Like our core pillar of our business is around strategic advisory. And that's because of how important it is. Being able, you said it at the beginning of the call, it's something that we say a lot, being able to see around the corners. That's what advisors are there to help you with. And if you do run into a brick wall, like how do I get around the brick wall? Well, you can try to figure it out on your own, or you could go to somebody that's already been there before. Like if you have the choice to have that set up now, or hey, I'll get to it later, everybody would say, I want it set up now. Who would say that I'll wait? I'll just wait. I don't need that. I'm good. I wish if I could go back in time, I would have had that.
I think about these calls that we have with these brands, like we will have brands that reach out to us and we take a call with just about any brand because we never know where that is going to lead. And they always leave with a nugget or 2 or 3 or 10 of something that will impact their business or maybe change the way that they were going to set something up or roll something out in their franchise brand. And so I think about, as you said, advisors. I mean, that's what we do. We're strategic advisors. We get, but we are also strategic advisors to brands that we are thinking about working with, that we are getting to know. And so if you're a brand out there, like talk to us, reach out to us, and most likely it won't go anywhere because we talk to 150 plus brands a year and we only take on a handful. So we know that we're probably never going to work together, but we treat this as a really trusted relationship, one that we want to build and we want to give more value than we get. And there are other people out there, maybe they're in your industry. You should reach out to them to get some good advice, or talk to an executive that was in the industry that you are in, and then maybe they left that industry in a franchise brand, and you can reach out to them to get some advice and maybe pay them a bit of money, pay them $1,000 for an hour, $2,000 for an hour of their time. And you'll probably learn more in that hour of time than you would if you were just trying to do a ton of research online. For me, Jeff, I think that if I'm, building out 3 locations in 1 year, maybe 2 years as a franchisee, I'm not talking about an air developer, not building out something massive, but just a handful of locations, I would have absolutely hired that killer operational person, because I'm not an ops guy. And it took me too long to realize I'm not an ops guy. I'm a visionary. I'm a marketer. I'm just not that an integrator, that operational person. I would have hired a great bookkeeper and a great CPA to understand the financials and to keep accurate books. And I think an experienced operational person that came from a competitor that was a good competitor, and maybe they had a following, and there's some industries where your first hire should be somebody that has a book of business that they could bring to your team. That's how it was in the senior care business. The people in the senior care business that had massive ramp ups, way bigger than everybody else, is they hired somebody that had a book of business that they brought with them. So yeah, I would have hired that amazing ops person, because I wasn't that person in the beginning. That's what I would have done differently.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisor and you're frustrated that you're not awarding as many franchises as you thought you would, this is the reason I created the Franchisor Mastermind. If you want access to the information, the techniques that the best franchise sales organizations are using to award franchises, and you want what mature brands have with their playbook of having happy, successful franchisees that grow the right way, then you might want to check out the Franchisor Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections. They want the playbook to achieve both short-term and long-term success. They want to increase enterprise value in their brand. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
All right, looking back, last kind of question. What brand would you have bought, built, and scaled as a franchisee if you could have done it all over again? Like, we know so much now. We can look back with 2020 vision, and we can see, what we wish we would have done, the brand that we could have gone with versus the one that we did. What brand would you have really dove into and built?
So, we had an interesting call yesterday with somebody that came from kind of like Wall Street, M&A.
I'm thinking about getting him on the podcast too. What do you think?
Man, he could tell some stories. He would be fantastic. High level finance guy. Now has 84 locations of one brand in franchising. Talk about a career change, right? Now he's taking it as an approach of like, hey, I want to build something big. And there was a lot of common sense there. And the reason he picked the brand that he picked was because it was single modality. He likes that. It's easy to communicate. If you only do one thing, like it's a lot easier to communicate than if you do 10 things or 30 things, right? I just do one thing. We do one thing. And what he said is I had to make sure that the capital that I put behind a single modality brand, that they were the best. They were the overwhelming market leader. Like, because if I have that, then that's that. And that just clicked with me, right? Like, that just clicked with me. Like, and he wanted, and then the third thing was like, just kind of like a fragmented category where nobody had really thought about taking a concept that most people knew about, but becoming like the first like nationwide brand around it. So take a fragmented category, single modality, and make sure that if you're pushing in your chips, that it's going to be the number one brand in the category, right? So I'm like, that's just, there's so much common sense there, right? Like, so So like what I like think about, and then the other thing is like, and then now the one thing he kind of came in, you know, after he liked the fact that by the time he got on board, there was already 500 locations, and now there's over 1,000 of this. So there was a lot of data points. For me, I like to get in a little bit earlier. I think that people, you know, he's gone through and he's developed his own units, but he's also acquiring other people that came into the system earlier and had a lot of success, have a lot of data, and he can acquire them. But he's still paying a pretty decent premium on that business. I'd like to be the guy that gets in early, controls an entire market or multiple markets, builds up, and then runs a process to kind of exit that piece to private equity. Because private equity will come in and look at, like, you know, operators that have 30, 50, 100 units in their portfolio, or some of these food guys have 1,000 plus, right? So like, if I could kind of jump back in time and think about, okay, how find a fragmented category, great unit economics, single modality, and be the market leader. Like, one of the most fascinating brands to me out there is Nothing Bundt Cakes. AUV of over $1 million, unbelievable unit economics, single modality. We make bundt cakes. That's what we do. We make bundt cakes. Totally fragmented, right? It's all like individual mom and pop bakers, or you're dealing with like the big grocery store guys like a Publix or a Kroger. And they just said, hey, we're gonna build an entire business. That's $1 billion company today. So if I could have gone, I live in Cincinnati. If I could have gone in Cincinnati and Columbus and Louisville and Lexington and had 50 or 60 of those, and really kind of built a shared service model as a platform on top of all these locations, it's like, you just do one thing and you do it better than anyone else. And so like that, when I was kind of thinking about it, like, I don't know, that just kind of flashed in my brain, but I was pairing it to the conversation that I had yesterday. But you know, there's other brands that I think like a Massage Envy or a European Wax. Like, there's lots of examples of kind of Orange Theory, like the brands that have 1,000 plus units today that kind of were first to market and had a single modality. Pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, but Nothing Bundt Cakes, man.
All right. The brand for me, there was two brands that were coming out that I kind of looked at the same time, and I didn't do anything with. The only reason I didn't is because the brand that I bought the founder was in the market. The corporate office was in the market that I was living in. So it made it really easy for me just to say yes to that one. Home Instead, the senior care business, was just starting out at that time. And Home Instead, they did, I think, from some inside information that I have, they've done very well. And they are kind of the leaders in that category. And then
I forgot about senior care.
Yeah, that one exploded. And then the other one was Anytime Fitness. Anytime Fitness came out around that same time. And the thing that I like about them is they, similar to the businesses that you and I were in earlier, you go into smaller markets and have strong unit economics in smaller markets. Anytime Fitness, the same thing. I mean, they are in Spearfish, South Dakota, town of 10,000 people, hometown of Franchise Secrets. Like, that's where Franchise Secrets is based. 10,000 people, Anytime Fitness, and I think it crushes it here. But and I also think
what a great business concept. I mean, the whole world was big box gyms. It's all that anybody ever knew. And this idea of 24 hours small box, just genius. You know, I've had several meetings with Chuck Runyon, who was one of the founders, kind of like him and Dave, but and I've been in their offices. You know, they built a great brand, man. Inside their corporate office, they have a room that's dedicated. It's like a tattoo shop where people can get the Anytime Fitness, like, Running Man. I mean, when you have franchisees, and I think that, like, I don't even know what the number is, but it's a lot. But the idea that like franchisees and customers, like mainly like franchisees and people are part of the brand, like want to tattoo the brand's logo and they have a whole room at corporate dedicated to it. That tells you that you built something special, man.
They have it at convention too. Convention, you can go there and get tatted up with any type.
You can. It's
yeah.
I mean, if you spend any time in a room with Chuck Runyon, you just are like, wow, I wanna be a part of whatever he's building. I mean, he's next level. He's level 5. But yeah, great brand, and like just talk about. It's so awesome when somebody can carve out a new category that didn't exist, and it's just a better mousetrap. It's just a better way.
So in recent years, one that I wish I would have gotten involved with as a franchisee is Planet Fitness. Like, yeah. I wish I could have seen that thing coming. I was on the phone with he is a former member of the franchisee mastermind, but big Anytime Fitness, or not Anytime Fitness, Planet Fitness franchisee, international as well, and private equity's coming to that thing big time.
Oh, big time, man!
What do you think?
Big
time. How does a franchisee that wants to exit to private equity, as a franchisee, how do you find a brand that might be interesting or might be primed to have private equity come into it at some point?
Well, private equity is going to want to see a lot of data, not just on your business, but they're going to want to see that there's consistent winners across the entire franchise system. So private equity is going to want to make sure the system's very healthy, right? And then they're going to want to see that the brand itself it's matured, right? So they have franchisees that have been in the business for many, many years. And then in order to get private equity to be interested in your portfolio of units, I mean, first of all, they're not going to be interested in, 3, 4, 5 units, unless those 3, 4, 5 units are doing, $5 million a piece, something like that, right? Like you're going to have to build something of meaning, something of meaningful value. But the biggest thing is you're going to have to say, hey, my subset of stores outperform stores or service or whatever you're selling, right? My subset of locations outperforms the system, right? We have a big system. Our system is mature. Our system is proven. And I'm at the top level. I'm in that small 5%, top 5% amongst the sea of all the franchisees that are out there. So now the private equity company says, okay, this is a good system. And this is a heck of an operator that's outperformed their peers in the same space and built out a whole market, probably have built out multiple markets, and there's just really good data. So that's how you're going to get their attention.
So that's one way to do it. I think the more scrappy, well, that's kind of big picture thinking. Scrappy way to piggyback on that is find the franchisees that are planning to exit to private equity, or have exited private equity, or have private equity backing them, and see what brands they're involved with and see what brands they are going into. And because I know some guys, even like the one that we talked to the other day, he's back. It's not his money necessarily. He's got some money behind him. Sure. I've got another guy
Accelerate growth.
Yeah. I got another guy that is going to be on the podcast that has 3 brands now. He started out with 1 brand, but he's private equity backed. And he's, one brand, the first brand's mature, the second brand's mature, the third brand is not. And so there's a reason why they chose that particular brand and that kind of market. So I would look at people like that. So as you listen to these podcasts, reach out to some people. or just follow them and see what they're doing and what brands they're going into. That's kind of the scrappy way to do it. It's not very educated though. Like you don't know why they're doing it. They might have different reasons of going into different brands that may not be that private equity play or exit at some point. But I think that's interesting. Like the brands that we kind of talked about that we would have gotten into if we could have, they all have private equity franchisees who are private equity backed when they exited. So yeah, that's something interesting. All right, what else? Anything else on your mind before we? I got to go skiing with the girls today. It's like we haven't been skiing yet. I've been to Breckenridge skiing. Next year I'm going to get the Epic Pass so I can go out to Colorado more often. I think you and I should go out there and have a business meeting or two for sure. But I'm taking the girls up to go up to our little hill of about 12,000 or 1,200 vertical and hit the slopes on this Friday afternoon.
Groundhog's Day.
Yes.
Groundhog's Day today.
Going to be like 55
Punxsutawney
degrees.
Phil.
It's spring skiing, February 2nd.
Awesome.
But before we wrap it up, anything else on your mind that you want to hit?
No, man. I think that this was a great sesh. So covered some new ground today. I like it. There's some nuggets in here. That's what we want to do. Deliver some nuggets.
I think you got some nuggets. Get on a call with us. If you're a franchisor or thinking about becoming a franchisor, just reach out to me on social or email me or whatever you want to do. But we'd love to talk to brands. All right, man. I'm out of here. I'm going to go hit the slopes. Good seeing you. Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.